Hi, welcome to my weekly live stream. So I'm Christine Weber. I love to support mature yoga teachers as they get their wisdom out there into the world. So thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Krama, what Krama means and how to do it in yoga practice. But first, I want to tell you a little story. I was I was watching a video the other day, a couple days ago, and it was a PT, a physical therapist, who, and she started talking about the science behind breath with moving with your breath. She started to talk about the science behind it, and if you know me, you know that I love science-based yoga. Like I love when science starts to validate the teachings of the yogis, and that's something I've been into for a very long time. So anyway, this lovely person was giving a long video. It was a very well produced video about how moving with your breath is the best way to move, and citing many studies and talking about how the diaphragm is the core of the core, and talking about how the pelvic floor moves with the diaphragm, all this kind of like very technical stuff. And in the end, she said, so the best way to move is contract as you exhale and expand as you inhale. And I just thought I was, kudos to her for digging up all the research. And, she had 10 pages of research about this principle. And also, a little head scratching, because it's like, well, that's what I was taught years ago. And that's what I've always been teaching. So, on the one hand, I'm like truly grateful for the scientists who go and dig this stuff up. On the other hand, I'm sort of like, okay, we've known that for a really long time. It's actually not news. It's something that has been around. It's what my teachers taught. It's what Krishnamacharya taught. It's what Desikachar taught. It's what Gary Kraftso, one of my teachers, taught. I mean, it's so out there. The thing, however, that I see a lot in the yoga world is inhale, arms up, exhale, arms down. Inhale, arms up, exhale, forward bend. And again, those are accurate. That's right. But it doesn't necessarily teach you anything about how you're breathing or how you may want to refine that way of breathing. It doesn't teach you that. You learn that when you start to explore the interoceptive experience of actually moving with your breath in a much more subtle way. And so I want to show you a little bit of that today. We're going to focus in on the exhale. The reason I focus in on the exhale is it's kind of the easiest place to start, because it's just flexion lends itself to exhaling. And let me give you, and you're welcome to join me for this, but let me give you an example. So simple practice, breathe in. And as you exhale, feel your belly moving. Let your belly move towards your thighs and feel your thighs helping press the breath out. You feel that? Like this is called half chair, Ardha Utkatasana, half chair pose, right? So just try that again. So breathe in. And then as you exhale, feel the pressure of your thighs on your belly, forcing the breath out, right? That's the place to start. You could do that on your back. You could draw your knees in and do that on your back. You could do it, in flexion, the best, it's really from standing or on your back, or you could do it on your hands and knees, right? Another way to do it would be inhale, tabletop. Exhale, squish your belly with your knees. Child, or also known as child's pose. Squish your belly with your knees pose. So flexion naturally lends itself to supporting the natural recoil of the diaphragm, because when you exhale, your diaphragm's not actually working. It's just a natural, right? It's like the umbrella pushes down. And when you exhale, it just, it just kind of sucks back up. But there are a secondary musculature of exhale. So let me talk to you about that a little bit. Put your hands on your belly again here, and then do this, cough. And when you cough, rather than pushing out, try coughing and pulling in. Sometimes when people struggle with engaging their belly, the cough will help them to feel the belly come in. Sometimes it doesn't always work. I've tried it with people that hasn't worked with, but that's one little trick that sometimes can work. But really the easiest way is just flex, just go into flexion. Now, the belly, especially the lower belly, and the pelvic floor are not the only things that engage with exhale, or can engage with exhale. You can also engage from the navel to the solar plexus, right? And then the ribs, you have intercostal muscles that kind of draw in a little bit, but it's not as useful on the exhale. It's more useful on the inhale, right? So what I want to show you today is break up pelvic floor to pubic bone area to navel, navel to xiphoid process. So we'll call that pubic bone, navel, solar plexus. We'll call it 3 areas: pubic bone, navel, solar plexus. And what we're going to do is work with it in what's called Krama, Krama, Krama. What Krama is so great for is it teaches you to control the different fibers of the muscles as you exhale. And these are secondary musculature of exhalation. This is not normal way of exhaling is you just recoil. What this does is it helps to teach you that you have more agency over your breath. And why do you want to learn that? Because as you learn the skill of having more control over your breath, that leads you to having more control over your autonomic nervous system, which leads you to having more agency psycho-emotionally and mentally, right? It leads you to have greater mental emotional agency or control when you're in a challenging situation, for example. So there's actually a very practical reason for learning about your breath and learning to get really granular about how you control it. Because in that process, you start to learn how to take greater awareness, greater control over the autonomic functioning. And that leads to limbic, that leads to emotional stuff. Okay, so I want to show you this first in the first Krama in what we just did, tabletop to child's, right? So this first example, actually, I think this might be the only example to keep it short. So breathe in, whatever you want. Don't worry about your inhale. And then move back 1/3 of the way as you work that pubic bone area, 2/3 navel, all the way solar plexus. Okay, so you're breaking it up into 3 parts in your mind. So inhale, tabletop, look up. Exhale, low belly. See if you can isolate the muscles below your navel. Navel, and then solar plexus. And I hope you're feeling the Krama, those 3 movements map to the 3 parts of the belly, and they go up and out, which is what the exhale does. It goes up and out. Okay, so try it again. Inhale, exhale first, pelvic floor, pubic bone, and bend your elbows, and then navel area, and then solar plexus. Do it one more time. Inhale. First, engage pelvic floor, pubic bone area, engage navel area, breathe out a little more, engage solar plexus. So what we were doing there was breaking up the exhale into these 3, and the Chinese call it the triple burner. So it's there. So we're breaking it up into lower abdomen, middle abdomen, upper abdomen. And we break the breath up into 3 parts and move on those 3 parts. And now it's transferable. You can do it like this. Inhale, forward bend, just a little bit, pelvic floor, pubic bone, sacrum coccyx area, another 1/3, belly, navel area, another 1/3 into the solar plexus. And then inhale back up. So using Krama, oh my God, it's so powerful. It's such a powerful practice to teach people the power of their exhale, and that I mean, just think about it. If you had trouble with that, you're not alone. It takes a long time for the brain maps to change, for us to start to develop myelination in the brain, going, oh, these are different parts of my belly fiber muscles, the rectus and obliques that I didn't really understand that I could even do anything with, But it starts to create new brain maps. It starts to create new awareness, new interoceptive capacity that then gives us the capacity to start using our breath in different ways to create different effects on the nervous system, to create different mental emotional states, and over time, traits. Because, this is like Dan Goldman's work on altered traits. The thing is that we can change the state quickly with all sorts of different yoga fun things, and people do it all the time. Like, that's what TikTok's all about. When you go to like the breathing stuff in TikTok, it's like, do this practice, you'll feel this way, but over time, as we start to develop different brain maps of the body, and we start to myelinate some of those neural pathways, then we start to change who we are. And so when people say things like, I'm an anxious person, that is not who you are. You are a person who experiences anxiety, and you can stop being an anxious person if you are using practices over time. You will start to unwind that patterning. It takes a while. Like, I'm not saying it's a quick solution. Somebody who's been anxious since they were 2 years old, it's going to take a long time. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. Everybody can change. And that's what yoga practices, are intended for, is helping us to make those changes. Thank you so much for being here. It's always great to have you. And could you please leave a comment? That would be really helpful. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you think about these practices. And I'd also be really open to whatever you would like me to discuss in future live streams. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next week. Lots of love.